Hey guys, I'm back. So for anyone who just saw, I was just live with a really poor connection. So let's retry this. So had a few questions come in the last few weeks, again for Food in 15. So I wanted to share them before they sort of slipped away. One of the main topics that came in, it was if I am following a diet program, how do I sort of wean myself off of it without regaining all the weight that I've just lost? So great question, and I get this all the time. One of the biggest things to consider is depending where you're at, right? So typically if you're doing a weight loss program, there was a goal weight in mind. Our weight is controlled by a bunch of different hormones. So if, say, we pull down to, whatever weight you've reached, think of it as a rubber band, okay? And this is from the Canadian Obesity Network. They've done a ton of research. Basically, your hormones are sitting there saying, okay, I know you're eating this much. I know you're exercising and burning this much. So I'm going to plateau your weight once I've figured out what it is. And that's their job, right? Otherwise, we continue to lose weight until we die, kind of thing. So once you've kind of hit that plateau, you really need to make sure the weight that you're at, okay, it can be a number in your mind that's ideal, but your very best weight is actually going to be at a point where you're eating well, you enjoy the foods, you're not feeling restricted, and you can sustain that long term. And same with the exercise. If you're having to, bust out at the gym 3-4 hours a day to get to that number, and that's not sustainable for you, you're absolutely going to regain some of that weight, right? Because those hormones are keeping that metabolism where you were at that lowest point to make sure we kind of regain. That's their job. So the biggest thing that I say is, when you're making lifestyle changes, whether it's, food on its own, hopefully you're balancing some exercise, hopefully you're making sure you're sleeping well, stress is okay, that whatever that number is on the scale, that you've done it in a way that's doable for life, because otherwise you're going to regain weight. So it's not to be that kind of bad news bear. It's just realistic, and it's not your fault. It's not anything that you've done or haven't done well. It's literally just, it's your body's job. So if you're doing keto, if you're, following a plan and an exercise plan and, whatever program online, I would gradually start making sure that, you are having some of those favorite foods every once in a while, that you are having more rest days, that you're flexing the type of exercise that you're doing, that you're making sure you're sleeping well, and that will actually minimize some of that weight regain. Okay, so if it's a very structured set meal plan, this is all you're allowed to eat, you have to do X amount of movements and exercises every day, you're gonna have to try to maintain some of that to maintain the number that ended up on the scale. Okay, so I hope that made sense. The other thing too, before I forget, if during that time that you're doing that diet, you're not working on the learned behaviors around why you're choosing those foods, those behaviors and that learned behavior doesn't go away. So for a lot of people, after the structure is gone, the behaviors come back. So that's actually usually where we see some of that weight regain. Okay, I had a question specific to Saxenda. So for anybody who's not familiar, it is a medication similar to Victoza, which is a diabetes medication. It's a higher dose. It's been approved for weight loss. It's a once daily injection. It's called liraglutide. And it's fantastic because it slows down digestion, keeps us full longer, and it also sort of tells our brain, I'm full. So it kind of mimics that hormone that does that. So the question around it was, I've been very successful on it. It's really helped me. Can I come off of it? So in my experience, and also sort of what the reps for the medication will tell you, is that it is sort of suggested that it's a long-term medication. The reason why is for a lot of the people who are successful with Saxenda, more so than lifestyle changes, is mainly because that hormone that says, hey, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, is kind of in overdrive, and especially without the medication. If we do a lot of lifestyle work while we're taking the medication, that can help with the learned behaviors. So regulating meal times, balanced plates, so we're getting enough nutrition, that we're including exercise into that change, that also helps. So we definitely see some people who will maybe hit the max dose of the 3 milligrams and maybe can come down to a lower dose to maintain weight loss. I've seen some people come off of the medication and do really well. So there's not one straight answer. However, in terms of how the drug was tested and used for, it is for long-term use. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, please let me know. You can PM me or DM me through Instagram or on Facebook. Okay, lastly, I'm going to jump through this one. I had a parent message me and saying that they had already received notes from their teacher about kids' lunches, what was okay to pack, what was not, and they were feeling a little bit pressured to have to follow that. They really felt that they did well feeding their kid a balanced diet. So this really hits close to home for me as a mom of 3 girls. I've definitely experienced it myself. There's sort of 2 ways of looking at it, right? So your kids typically are at school for 2 snacks and a lunch. Home for breakfast, home for supper, and then evening snack if you do. So maybe 50%, a little bit less. The challenging piece where schools come from is they see such a variety of foods that come in. And so for them to try to normalize healthy eating, I think is a really fantastic thing. Where the challenge is not everyone has access to, endless amounts of fresh produce and good lean sources of protein, or they may not know how to cook and how to prepare those balanced meals. And I don't necessarily think it's positive to put that on the kids, or send those notes home or have those discussions for the kids, because they really don't have control over any of that, other than maybe, into high school age. Fine. Good to talk to kids about that and what it means, the school snack options that they have. They put out fantastic foods. So twofold. You can sort of address it both ways in terms of, yes, providing whatever treat you're comfortable for your kids and making sure they have a balanced lunch. We want them to be well nourished while they're trying to learn. And also just being confident that, you're feeding them well outside of school. So if kids, are asking for a little bit more treats while they're in class and around their peers, because that's what their peers are having, there's no harm in that. My own kids would probably tell you, that they get homemade treats. That's what we try to focus on. If they want cookies or whatever, by all means, go make them in the kitchen. That's fine. But it's whatever your home is comfortable with, whatever you guys enjoy as a family, and whatever treat foods your family likes to bring in. So there's always room to have that conversation with the educator, and just making sure there's a bit of balance. If you need any cards or letters, there are some that are pre-made in terms of very politely addressing that issue. So, and also it's very welcomed, it used to be, in terms of having an RD come into the class to talk to the whole class, depending on the age. And as far as I know, I think it would be more virtual with COVID going on. So that's an option as well. So those were the 3 main ones that I wanted to touch base with this week. I love having them come in. So please, if you have any questions at all related to nutrition, diabetes, heart disease, food allergies, digestive issues, please send them my way, because you're not alone in having those questions. Okay, so thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next time for Food in 15. Take care.